Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, E-Steam Goddess of. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a demonic dominatrix in this action-packed all-new E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Goddess of in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. In a previous video, I called your Donald Trump a Pookie. And I call him President Pookie because when I take a critical look at your Donald Trump, he is no different than the Pookies and the Ray Rays in the ghetto. And when it comes down to your Pookies and your Ray Rays in the ghetto, these guys, they make a lot of noise, but at the end of the day, they don't deliver on any goods. Now, in a previous live stream I listened to by Ringo, Black Male Advice, he talked about these Pookies and how these Pookies can have a job. And your Donald Trump is just like the Pookie who has a job. He's a guy, he's got a lot of mouth, he's got a lot of this so-called swagger, and he's very flashy, and he makes big promises, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to your Donald Trump, just like your Pookie, he can't deliver on those goods because his mouth often writes checks that his backside just can't cash. And when it comes down to your Pookies, these are guys, they will go out here and they will make all of these big promises to females, but at the end of the day, when it's time to put stuff on the table, that's when these guys just wind up crumbling into dust and they wind up falling completely on their face because they can't promise what they deliver. And an example of President Pookie's big mouth making a promise he can't keep, he talked about how he was going to build this wall and Mexico was going to pay for it. Now we're on going on 3 years of your Donald Trump's presidency, and this wall ain't being built by no Mexican government. So that right there shows you a Pookie promise right there. But most American people, especially the American woman, are so caught up in their feelings about Donald Trump, they can't see the facts regarding how this Donald Trump has pretty much played them in the same way Pookie plays you. Now, the other thing that your Donald Trump made a big promise on was this tax reform. And this year, right now, most people are seeing that they are paying more in taxes with your Donald Trump's tax reform, and they don't see how Pookie has pulled a swerve on them one mo again. Now, this so-called tax reform was supposed to lower everybody's tax bill and give them more money in their paycheck. And yes, short term, you got a few extra dollars in your paycheck, but long term, you wound up paying more for that tax cut more than you expected. So Pookie, again, ran another game on the American people. And again, because they are so caught up in their feelings about this guy, they can't see how he keeps running game on them, because they are so caught up in his rhetoric that they can't see the facts regarding this Pookie and his games that he runs on you. Because when it comes down to Pookie, this is how he operates. Pookie, he will tell you what you want to hear, and then as you're listening to what you want to hear, you can't see the details in his story and the holes in his story. Now, I can take a critical look at your Donald Trump, and again, I have said from day one, this man is not qualified to be the president of these United States because he lacks, one, a sense of couth and decorum. Two, he lacks an ability to lead and bring people together. And three, he lacks a direction. And this is something that I learned from seeing these Pookies in my neighborhood, is that when it comes down to Pookie, Pookie has no direction. And your Donald Trump, just like Pookie, has no direction. You hear him talking about making America great again, but the big problem with that whole slogan is this: our United States Constitution has 3 words in it that will ever prevent America from being great again. And those 3 words are "we the people." And the big problem with America is that we the people just don't want to be great. Now, the reason why most Americans don't want to be great is because most Americans don't want to take on the great responsibility of running their country or running their life by taking the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness into their own hands. No, when it comes down to most Americans, they are expecting somebody to come in like a Donald Trump or the man before him, Barack Obama, to come in and make the changes to their lives that they need to take responsibility and take charge over themselves. Because when it comes down to most Americans, they are expecting someone like Donald Trump to come in and change their lives and make it great. But your Donald Trump can't come in and make your life great. That's not something he can do. And like Pookie before him, Pookie will make the promise to you that he's going to make things great for you, but in actuality, there is no possible way for him to do this. Now, your president, Pookie, has run this game on the American people, and because they are just so caught up in their feelings regarding his political rhetoric, they can't see the smokescreen that your president, Pookie, has run on you. And on both, everybody's so polarized in their emotions, they can't see that the big problem isn't your Donald Trump or anybody on you or even anybody in the political spectrum. The problem is the American people. And the big problem with the American people is they don't want to be responsible for their country. And many American people, as I see it, take their country for granted because they've had it so good for so long. They don't even appreciate the liberties and rights they have gotten under this United States Constitution. And this is something I've seen with this country, because this is another reason why your 60% of white women and 30% of Hispanic women went, and many of these American people went to go vote for your Donald Trump, is because they don't appreciate their country. They don't appreciate what the opportunities given to them, and they're expecting somebody else to come in and clean up their mess. But that's par for the course when you have a country with a majority female voting base and a large majority of females controlling the job market. Because when it comes down to women, they usually want somebody else to do things for them because that's how they're naturally wired. And they believe that men are responsible for them. And they're looking for the man with the biggest mouth to go out here and do things for them. Now, the man before your Donald Trump came along, President Pookie, he also was another side of the Pookie. Now, in order to understand the Pookie, you have to understand the other side of the coin of the Pookie, and that is the nice guy. Now, your Barack Obama before your Donald Trump was the president of these United States, and he was touted as the first black president of these United States. But in actuality, all your Barack Obama was the first nice guy president of, no, the second, I'd say, nice guy president of the United States, because Jimmy Carter was a nice guy before him. And your Barack Obama, because he was a nice guy, what he did was he was more about keeping up appearances than taking constructive action. And your Barack Obama, as related to his whole nice guy appearance, he wanted to create a smooth world. And in Barack Obama's world, he talked about hope and change. And these were slogans that made people, again, feel good. And women love to feel good. But when it came down to your Barack Obama, he was too afraid to go out here and confront people and engage in the conflict necessary to bring change to America that it desperately needs. And a sign of that was when that white woman, again, put her finger in his face, I believe it was one of these governors, and your Barack Obama just stood there and tolerated it. Now, any man with a backbone and stones would have hard checked that female right there and showed his executive power by letting her know who was in charge. The same thing as related to that incident where that police officer humiliated your, I got to remember his name, Henry Louis Gates Jr., and this police officer is belligerent right in front of the very chief executive officer of these United States, and he just sits there and tolerates it. Typical nice guy behavior. Now, if this man had any sort of leadership or authority, again, he would have hard checked that man who he brought to the White House and let him know he needs to respect his position and respect his power. But nice guys, they don't have any sort of backbone or stones, and again, they have no sense of leadership or direction. And when I take a look at your Barack Obama's foreign policy, it also showed how he had no direction. He went out here and allowed this whole situation with ISIL to blow up, and then he destroyed these countries like Libya and turned them into complete wastelands with no sense of idea of what direction he was going to take those countries in. And the whole thing with Iraq fell completely apart because nice guys don't know how to set a direction. Nice guys, they do things based on feelings, they do things based on impulse, but they have no sense of direction. And as related to the economy, your Barack Obama, after he gave out all these unemployment benefits extensions, again, took no leadership role. And that was a nice guy thing right there. Instead of him setting a course for the country, he just went and talked about hope and change, but nothing really changed because he did not have the courage to confront people. He did not have the courage to check people, and he did not have the courage to hold people accountable. And I saw a sign of that in 2009 when a simple thing like an unemployment benefits extension, he lets the Senate and the Congress go on vacation and abandons the American people, which showed me again his lack of leadership skills because he was too afraid of conflict because he was the so-called black president. He was all about pleasing people, and that's what a nice guy does. And that's not what a leader does. A leader understands that he has to look at the best interest of the country. And when I look at your Barack Obama, he was just the flip side of the coin of your Donald Trump, who is the jerk side of the coin. Barack Obama was the nice guy, and Donald Trump is the jerk. And the jerk makes a lot of noise, and he makes a lot of boisterous claims and boisterous promises, but he never delivers. And when we look at your Donald Trump, he is just like your Barack Obama, and he makes a lot of big promises, but he makes a lot of big talk. But at the end of the day, when you look at his overall platform over the last 3 going on 4 years, there is no accomplishments behind it. And that's just what Pookie does. Pookie, he goes out here, he charms the women with his swagger and his big mouth, but at the end of the day, the women, because they're so caught up in their feelings, all they're doing is looking at the outward appearance of this man and not looking at the actions of this man. Because when it comes down to women, they are all in their feelings about things, and because they're in their feelings, they can't take a critical look at the facts as related to both the nice guy and the jerk. But because I can take a look at the nice guy and the jerk, I can see how both have damaged this country, because your Barack Obama damaged America's economy with that Affordable Care Act, which pretty much has made it where corporations can't hire people. And your Donald Trump has crippled the economy long term with that tax cut, which has screwed Americans out of their money and has hurt American business because many businesses relied on those tax refund dollars to fuel spending. So both of these men, they played to the woman's feelings, telling her what she wanted to hear. And one promised hope and change, which is what the nice guy promised you, and the jerk promised you that he would make America great again. But neither man has any balance in the center, because a man who is balanced in the center understands that he is not going to make a promise he can't keep, because he understands that his word is bond, and if he has integrity in his word, he's only going to promise what he can deliver. Moreover, that man who has a center and a moral compass with a center and a God center, what he's going to do is he's going to tell people the raw truth. And the raw truth that most of these Donald Trump and Barack Obama don't want to tell you is that your country is in a mess, and one, and two, This country is in a mess, and it is your fault. We, the people, made this mess, and we, the people, need to take responsibility for the messes we have made and the lies we have told ourselves that, like, we can have it all. Now, when it comes down to America, if you really want to be great, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. And this is what your Donald Trump and your Barack Obama don't want to tell you. They don't want to tell you that you're going to have to let some things go if you hope to move ahead towards any sort of greatness. Because in order to get to great, you have to let things go and you have to move, and that's the only way you're going to be able to achieve something else. And the big problem with Americans is they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to have this lavish lifestyle, but they don't understand in order to get those things, you have to give some things up. And what's sad is most Americans would rather give up their liberty and their freedom all because they want to get something like safety, not understanding that they can get that same safety if they take responsibility for themselves and create a standard for themselves. But they would rather let the government create a standard for them, and instead of them standing for the Democratic Republic, they want to try to turn the Democratic Republic into a fascist and communist state because they don't want to take responsibility for themselves. They don't want to take responsibility for their decisions. And sadly, because we have a population that is growing to be more and more women in charge of the voting and in charge of the economy, they are content with that, and they are content with driving the country deeper into the ground because they would rather go out here and have somebody else be responsible because women themselves don't want to be responsible. And that's why they both voted for your Barack Obama and your Donald Trump, because like the jerk and the nice guy, they make big promises to you, but these guys never deliver, and they never tell you the truth that in order to get to things like change, you have to take responsibility for the direction you want to go in. And if you want to be great and you want to make yourself great, you're going to have to go in and put this work in. And most Americans, they don't want to go through that sort of pain. They don't want to go through that sort of loss. They would rather sit there and say it's somebody else's fault instead of putting the blame on themselves. All those subprime mortgages, that was the American people who did that. All of these issues as related to immigration, that's the American people who did that. Because the American people want cheap labor. They don't want to pay Americans a fair wage for their labor. So they want to sit there and say that the so-called Mexicans are taking their jobs, but it is American companies that go out here and give Mexicans their jobs. Same thing with the Indians in IT and in the stock market. You want to use H-1B visas to get cheap labor, but then you don't see how it is costing you in your own economy because all of those people who you hire outside of the U.S. take your dollars and then send them to their countries, enriching themselves at your expense. And this is another thing your American people don't want to take responsibility for because it's always somebody else's fault. And that is the mantra of most females, is it's always somebody else's fault, never their own. And again, that flies in the face of our United States Constitution's first three words, which says, we the people are the ones who are supposed to be in charge of our country. But what's sad is most American people don't want that responsibility, and they'll sit there and they'll go out here and go get behind President Pooky, believing he can make America great again, when in actuality President Pooky and President Nice Guy before him can't do anything for you, because there is no hope of making America great again until Americans take responsibility for the America they created for themselves. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct publications, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, Isis, All That Glitters. The goddess next door takes on a bikini-clad bank robber in this action-packed all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, All That Glitters in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.